Welcome to the Sandwich Generation Podcast, a resource for adults balancing the dual responsibilities of raising children and caring for aging parents. Whether you're helping your parents downsize, explore real estate options, navigating caregiving, or looking for practical advice to help your family thrive, this is the place for you. Join us as we bring you expert insights, heartfelt stories, and actionable items to support you and your family within this unique generation. Hello.
We were just talking about you leaving for vacation soon. And all that entails.
Yep. One of my friends that's going with, she texted last night. She's like, my entire personality has become that I'm going on vacation next week. I was like, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I can feel it. But
well,
yeah,
your kids are younger than mine, plus you have more than I do. And I feel like, I was thinking about this when you were telling me, I feel like you're probably more hands-on when it comes to packing than I am. I'm like, if you don't bring any underwear, you're not wearing underwear for the week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as getting packed, I just have to get myself and then Adam packed. But my kids are staying here. So
they are. I thought you were taking your kids.
No, the kids are staying here. So my dad and my stepmom are going to come stay with them for the week and get them to school and baseball and all the things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not our spring break. Our spring break's not till sometime in April.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was spring break because we're getting into spring break time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, just adults, parents getaway trip. So looking forward to that. But yeah, you don't realize how much it's like, okay, I got to write out a schedule and I got to make sure that I have food in the house for while we're gone that they'll actually eat.
Yeah.
And,
Now that makes seness more. Yeah. You were saying like, there's a lot to think about their schedules and everything.
Emergency contact stuff. I got to just make sure everything's in place, easy to access. Dad knows where it is, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
he's stepping in to run your house for the week. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they'll probably actually.
My dad could do that. I mean, my mom could maybe, but I don't think my dad could. I hope they're not listening to this.
So he'll be good. He loves to cook, so they'll probably be really disappointed when I come back and mealtime is back to normal. They'll be like, man,
great. Back to macaroni and cheese. And
they'll be like, this is a lot better when Papa was here to cook. Yeah.
What kind of things did he cook for them that they eat?
Oh, he'll do, anything on the grill, ribs. Colton has already actually requested that he bring his waffle maker because I don't have a waffle maker. And he's like, I need you to tell Papa to bring his waffle maker because I need some of his waffles while he's here. So I'm like, okay.
Oh, I love that.
So just that kind of stuff. Like he'll make whatever they want to eat, but
it'll be the highlight of probably his whole year.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but
I don't know about that. That's funny. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
The week before you go on vacation.
I know. So just in the thick of it. But I thought
where are you going? We didn't even talk about that.
We're gonna go to Punta Cana in the Dominican.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be nice, especially with the weather that we've had this winter.
Yeah, I'm ready for some sunshine and sand in the toes in the sand, however you want to say
it. In the sand. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, that'll be nice. And then hopefully when you get back, there won't be very much winter left.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully it's starting to warm up. Hopefully it stays that way, right? We'll see.
I know. I feel like it's a teaser and this always happens every year around March Madness because we get.
Oh, yeah. We'll get one more snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
So
we survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. This month we've kind of been talking about aging in place or the last few podcast episodes and upcoming ones. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we were just going to kind of talk about some of the pros and cons about aging in place versus downsizing today, right?
Yeah. And in looking at the pros and cons, I realized a lot of it is the same information as the recognizing when it's time to downsize, but it's kind of the opposite. Like the pros
Yeah.
for one become the cons of the other. So some of the information is going to sound familiar. It's just a different angle of looking at it, if that makes sense.
If you've been listening to the Sandwich Generation podcast for any amount of time, which
And
we
if,
hope you have.
yeah, if you haven't, you should go back and listen. But
Yes.
I did see a really cool, and there was no way to like say who this originated from or who originally came up with this idea, but it's the 40-70 rule.
Okay.
And okay, yeah. So 40-70 rule means when you as the adult child turn 40, that's when you should start thinking about what your plan might be for your parents and kind of start talking about those conversations, or when they turn 70.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's where
yeah.
the 47 come in.
Yep. So either when you turn 40 or they turn 70, then those conversations should start just kind of talking about it, thinking about it, asking them what their goals would be with that. And
Yeah.
I feel like for some people that's going to feel really early,
Yeah.
but if one thing we have learned in doing this, our Indy Senior Living series or the podcast even, is you have to start early if you really want to feel prepared when something
If you want
pops
to
up.
if you want to feel prepared and also have more options and better options, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that, the 40-70 rule.
Yeah, and I couldn't find where to like who to credit for it. I just saw it, and I was like, oh,
so
I
if you're
like
out
that.
there and you made up the 40-70 rule, good idea.
Yeah, we like it.
Yeah, we like it.
So I thought that was kind of a good little tip to keep in mind.
Yeah, and if we're thinking about if we're using that rule, I'm there. I've been there for a few years. So
yeah.
And my dad, I think I've told you this before. Every time I go visit him for the last like three or four times I've visited him, he goes and he shows me his same desk, the same filing cabinet, the same files, and he runs through everything, which I think is wonderful that he's, telling me. But every time I go back, he gets in more detail about it. Like he'll be like, here's where the Verizon stock is, the information. And here's the passwords for, blah, 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 whatever. And just, that's not a commercial for Verizon stock, by the way. It's just, he used to love his Verizon stock.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
good.
Every time I go to visit him in Houston, yeah, he gets in more detail. My mom, on the other hand, is going to be a different story. I mean, we sort of have these, but they're all surface level. Like, we haven't really got into anything. What about you? Have you started to have these conversations with your dad or your mother-in-law? Because there's been some issues.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We've done with my in-laws for sure. I actually went with them to the elder law attorney and made sure that they were just getting things in place as far as the powers of attorney and healthcare directives and that kind of stuff. So we're good there. My dad is 68. So he hasn't hit the 70 yet. I've definitely hit the 40 part, but not the 70 part yet. And then my stepmom is younger than him by quite a few years. So we haven't had a lot of that in-depth conversation, but
so they're vibrant, just living life, just taking over your house for the week and cooking for your kids.
Yeah, like but still things that I should be making sure that they have this stuff in place. Maybe I'll just send this podcast link to them and be like, hey.
Oh yeah, just watch this one, Dad. This one's a good one.
Yeah. But I also, I'm not the local daughter. My sister is. my sister's younger than me, but she is the one that lives in town with them.
Sure.
So, I think there's a lot of things that we'll just have to figure out. I have actually one of my recent clients for Indy real estate experts. We're helping downsize them. They have 2 daughters, one who lives locally and one who is out of state. And they have it divided up as the one who calls and the one that hauls. So the out of state, which I love. Yeah. So the out of state daughter is the one that calls and makes all the appointments and figures out where they need to be, who they need to see, all of that. And then the daughter that's local is the one that actually hauls them there and gets them to those appointments. And so I thought that was really cute.
Wow. Yeah. And so they must have like a family calendar so that they can coordinate travel and all of that. Oh,
yeah,
that's actually really fun.
Work schedule so that the one that's calling knows like her days that she has free and that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought that was pretty smart, clever.
Yeah, really clever. It's great they could do that, work together and do that for their parents. So
yeah.
Well, okay, so let's get into some of the pros and cons. You mentioned
so yeah, like aging in place. I mean, I think most of the people we talk to, this is their plan if they can do it. They want to age in place. And one thing I want to talk about is, sometimes aging in place is their current home. Sometimes, as we have seen with quite a few of our clients in their moves, their plan to age in place is leaving their existing home, downsizing to a smaller home or a one level, ranch cottage style home, but then their plan is to age in place in that home. So
right.
So whether you're staying in a home you've lived in for 40 years or you're going to move to a new home and plan to age in place there, this all is kind of the same, but it definitely
That's good clarity though.
Yeah.
Because I think some people might think aging in place means that family home that, the whole family, all the kids were raised, the big 2-story house on a basement with 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Right. Like they're going to hunker down and age there. But it really could mean you do downsize a little bit into something that's just a safer environment.
More manageable.
And that you're using all of, not just 10%, because that big house is probably only going to be 10% of it used, although you're maintaining 100% of it, or you ought to be, and you're paying taxes and insurance on 100% of it. So so that's a good point of clarification there.
But one of the pros is going to be being familiar and comfortable with the home. So, if it is the house that you've raised your family in and you have been there for, many, many years or whatever, it's going to be familiar. It's going to feel comfortable. You're oftentimes going to know the people that are surrounding you. You're going to know your neighborhood. I mean, I know for me, when we moved to this house, like just having to change grocery stores was like, I hated it, I'm like, oh my gosh, nothing's in the same spot. I hate this grocery store. I want to go back to my old grocery store. So just even little things like that, where it's like, the gas station you go to, the grocery store, that kind of stuff can give you a sense of comfort.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta retrain your brain for all of that stuff. Yeah.
So just having that, being comfortable and familiar is definitely a pro. The independence. So just still feeling like you're independent and you're in your own house and your own environment and able to manage that. I mean, that's a huge pro, I would say.
I think that autonomy is something that is very important to all of us, but as we age and we just can't move around like we used to, I think it's something that some people just grab a hold of, and they just, with all their might hold on to that autonomy. And so that sense of independence or autonomy, I think it's really, really important. You hear people talk about having to like take the keys from their parents or their significant other. It's a big deal. It has to do with autonomy and freedom,
Yeah.
Yeah. That
It's one
sense
of
of
the
independence.
hardest conversations that I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
families have to have, and um, can be a major safety issue as well. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, as
Right.
long as they're able to do that and can maintain that independence, then that's obviously a plus of being able to stay
Sure.
in their current home. Um, cost effective in some
Mm-hmm.
cases. So,
In some cases. Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of times that house is paid off. So you're just paying your property taxes versus a monthly, rent or mortgage, that kind of thing. So, having more of a cost effective place, because we know long-term care, that sort of thing, gets very, very expensive.
It's
And that's,
astronomical.
yeah, and we can talk about that later. But so cost effective, but I think that's also going to be a con at some point. So
Yeah.
if they need in-home care, um, that can get very expensive. I know, generally it depends on where you live in the country and even in the state, but that, in-home care, if you're needing somebody to come in and help with assistance, that generally is on the minimum $30 an hour and goes up. And the more care you need, it's not unheard of for people to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars a week if they need, 12 hours of care or more. And that stuff is not covered by insurance. We can get into that and have some
Yeah.
experts talk to us about that. But, if you're just needing private duty assistance with your daily living activities, that kind of thing, you're generally paying for that out of pocket unless you qualify for some, healthcare assistance, that sort of thing. But so the pro is that oftentimes the house that you're living in is paid off, but the con
Mhm.
could be you're actually needing more of that care. It can get quite costly, and sometimes outweigh what actually an assisted living community or something like that would cost. So,
Yeah, and I'm not going to get on my normal soapbox about this, but there's a huge gap between affordable housing for seniors and um, you could be poor and be on Medicaid and get on the wait list for a Medicaid room, or you can have millions and be able to afford some
mhm,
senior communities. And so there's a huge gap in the middle between we're not poor and also we don't have millions and millions of dollars in the bank to pay for senior care. So not getting on the soapbox, but just reach out to your local representatives about this issue. Make it an issue and bring it to the forefront of your local representatives, because this is how we can affect change in this area. I know that I've been doing this, and I know others in our area in central Indiana who are doing this. And there are conversations being had. So that could be the start of it. But if things continue going like they are, I mean, I've seen predictions in the last couple of weeks, and by the year 2030, we're going to have a crisis on our hands in terms of
mhm.
affordable housing that is safe for our seniors. So,
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. So community ties is another one, just having that, obviously the being familiar with the community around you, but
yeah,
having the community support for different activities and getting to those things that they've maybe been doing for years and being able to continue to do. That would be, a pro of staying in your current home and aging in place. Um, so those are kind of the main things that I saw
in
and
terms
could
of
think of.
pros for aging in
Mhm.
place.
Yeah. Um, we can talk about cons too.
Yeah,
So the home
the
safety,
maintenance.
which, yeah,
Okay,
home safety and
I
maintenance.
was
Yeah.
going to maintenance. You're going
Mhm.
to safety. Same. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, they're similar. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And we just had Haley and Sam from In Home Preferred talking about some of those home modifications that they can do to stay in place. And so there are things that can be done to your existing space. Um, so just kind of weighing those and seeing like, okay, is this going to cost too much? Can my parents afford to make the modifications that will keep them safely in the home? Or does it just make sense to move to something that's going to be a little, less easier to manage, easier for them to navigate, maybe already has some of those modifications in place, like the wider doorways and entryways and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
I think they mentioned the entryways and the bathrooms for two of the main concerns when you're trying to make modifications for somebody to age in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I know one you like to talk about a lot, Lisa, that you always bring up is that social isolation.
Yeah.
From that word I can't say very well, but just from a social isolation. I struggle saying that word for some reason, but
I thought that the word we were talked about at some other point. Yeah. So social isolation. I mean, I've read somewhere that loneliness, in terms of what it does to your health, is the same as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day or something like that. Have you ever seen that statistic?
I don't think I've seen that, but I can believe it. I mean, I could get on board with that. It really does take a mental toll, and then that affects physical as well. But I mean, we see how when we go in and talk with some of our clients where, we can be there for quite a long time because
they just want to talk to somebody.
They just want to chat, and fortunately I enjoy chatting.
I'm here for it. Yes. I'm here for it. I'll sit and talk to them all day. I mean, I like hearing the stories. But it becomes really clear when somebody is just craving, some human interaction.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. I know. Let's see what else. Just talk about increased care needs. So, a con can be like if they really are needing more assistance with their daily activities of daily living, that kind of thing, then, that can be a con as far as if you as a family are able to support them in that way and do the things that they assist them with the things that they need or be there. I know in the years of working in home health, there were a lot of our clients who could still do their shower, for example, on their own, but they felt more comfortable, or their family felt more comfortable having someone in the home while they did that, because that's a scary area. That's where a lot of falls happen. And oftentimes if they were to fall and they're in the home by themselves, there's going to be a delay in emergency services because they can't get to a phone or, emergency, make that phone call if they've fallen and they're in the bathroom and they don't have any sort of like personal care pendant that they wear or something like that they can push. So the, delayed care and response time in emergencies can be a con if you're worried about their safety from that standpoint. So,
and our conversation with Haley and Sam from In-Home Preferred, we talked about how seniors will hide how much their health is actually declining. If it's a couple, they might cover for one another. It was that conversation, right, that we were having? And then you could check in with mom or dad. Maybe you're out of state, you call and you have a 5 or 10 minute conversation with them. That's not enough. It needs to be like an hour-long conversation, maybe, or in person. And we see sometimes when families come home for the holidays and they see their parents in person, they're kind of shocked because they're like, oh gosh, their health is, they're getting old, they're getting up there, and it's worse than what I thought. And so between just not being local and them sort of hiding, sort of being, I don't know if it's being in denial, or it's that, none of us think that we are as old in
Mm-hmm.
spirit as
Yeah.
we really are, and so, I don't know if it's that or what, but if you're an adult child, taking the time to really uh, spend some moments with them so you can really flesh out is this the reality of the situation, or is somebody covering for the other one, or are they
Mm-hmm.
faking it, just to
Yeah.
put on a strong front? That's important to take the time and figure out.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, if you aren't someone that's local to your parents, so you can't have eyes on them, um, they may not be telling everything, but if you're able to stop by every once in a
Yeah.
while and see them, you might notice those things that would indicate, like, you know, it could be a bruise that they have on their arm and you're like, how did you get
Yeah.
that? But if you're only able to check into with them over the phone, you can't physically see those signs that might prompt you to ask a question of what happened. And
Mhm.
so I think that takes us to, like, things that the adult child needs to consider when their parents are wanting to age in place.
Yeah.
Are you local? Do you have that support system that can come in and actually help with the things that they may need as they age in place? So, the food situation, are they able to
Yeah.
prepare and make the food that's going to be sufficient for them? And I don't want to say just sufficient, like, good. Like, I that's one thing that has always bothered me, is just no one wants to have to eat a microwavable meal every single meal. So,
No.
is there some support?
Frozen peas and squared cut carrots, like, who
Yeah.
needs that? Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe one time a day that's the option, but, is there support in place where, there's other family members that can make sure that there's some home cooked meals a few times a
Yeah.
week if they can't do those things. But, so just considering what your support system is, can they help get people to and from doctor's appointments or social activities that they might need to do? And, I was mentioning, we were talking earlier, and I said, I know a family that has multiple children, siblings,
Yeah.
adult children. I'm talking like 7 and 8 kids, and they still found it to be a struggle to keep their parents at home, even with having 7 of them to kind of manage and take care of those
Yeah.
responsibilities is still can be a lot. And um, so just being realistic with what your life is and the responsibilities that you have, and can you actually
Mhm.
give your parents the support that they need to age in place? I think that's huge to consider. So,
Yeah, and being um, brave enough to have some tough conversations with your parents, or, you know, loved one that you're in charge of, or caring
mhm,
for, or whatever. Just being able to have some frank conversations with them about their capacity, about your capacity to be supportive. Um,
mhm. Caregiver burnout is real. It
oh
is
yeah,
a problem. And if you're already struggling keeping your own life going and managing your own kids and managing all that, like, how
you're
quickly
going
are
to add
you?
one more thing to it that's
Mhm.
huge and
Yeah.
unpredictable, because
Yes.
we know some seniors that they'll be up at like 1 o'clock in the morning doing God knows what,
Mhm.
um, and watching their late night shows or whatever. What if they fell and
Right.
you're the caretaker, and you've also got kids at home, you got to work in the morning?
Mhm.
There's just one scenario of thousands that we could go, walk through, but
Yeah. And there's definitely I mean, one of the other things I think kids can consider is the technology that we have available to us these days. There are some things that can help give you peace of mind, give your parents peace of mind, but can they manage those things? Some people are going to be more tech savvy in their age and be able to, yep, I can have an iPhone and I know how to work it and I can text and that kind of thing. And then there's others that absolutely cannot do that. And so you just, you have to weigh those things. I have one of the things that we put in place for a family member is the Apple Watch that detects if there is a fall or an emergency. And I had actually mentioned that to one of my girlfriends back over the summer about how we had gotten this watch that now will track that. And she's like, can you, a couple months went by and she texted me and said, hey, can you give me some info on that? I think I want to get that for my mom. And so they did. There's 3 daughters and they got the Apple Watch for their mom for Christmas. And she just texted me a couple
if
weeks.
you're listening,
Yeah.
Our office address is real estate experts.
And send some support our way.
Yeah.
No kidding, right? Should be getting some kickbacks for this, but it worked. It was the same thing. Their mom had gotten up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, took a fall, and the Apple Watch detected it, contacted emergency services right away, contacted all 3 daughters. They got a call that she had fallen. And so she, texted me the next day and just said, thank you so much for that tip, because we knew right away she didn't lay on the floor all night. That's the biggest scare to be concerned about, is like something happens and there's nobody there. See, I mean, we hear these stories all the time. That's so scary and so horrible. I mean, that's just such a hard thing to grasp, that somebody needed something and was home alone and couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty amazing about the Apple Watch. I didn't know that. I wonder if
it's a certain series. It's a certain series of watch that does that now, but it has like crash detection and falls. It tracks your heart rate and all that kind of stuff. So from a health aspect, but they have to wear it.
Yeah. And if you're taking a shower or bath or something, you got to take it off, I'm sure. And then just make sure you put it back.
They are waterproof, so you don't. I mean, I wear one, and so you can shower with it and stuff. But at some point during the day, they do need to take it off and charge it. So there is going to be some sort of time frame where that's not on. But there are some things as far as the technology that can be super helpful. If your parent is going to age in place and you want to try to set those things up, you just have to consider whether or not they're going to be able to manage it. I mean, how many times do we hear about, well, they can't even get their TV remote to work because, they're calling and having to deal with that.
I can't get my TV remote to work. So,
I know.
I mean, in all fairness.
Yeah.
But
no, I know. Yeah.
So we find some of our clients are very tech savvy. I had a guy one time, he would text me. He's like in his 80s, or he was pushing 90. He would text me and he would send me emojis that I didn't even know exist. I was like, how did you get that emoji on your phone? So, you go from one extreme to the other in terms of the tech savviness. And I think as we continue on, more and more seniors will be tech savvy because we're entering into, the generations are being born who will never know a time where there weren't smartphones. Where
they didn't have,
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's years down the road. And in the here and now, we still do have a lot of people that were here when the first computer, was developed. So.
Yep, that's right. So, I mean, those are kind of just some quick pros and cons, whether, aging in place is the right thing. And then things to consider if you are the adult child, with their staying at home and your support system and being able to handle that. I also think we talked about this at our last Indy Senior Living Series event about having a plan B.
Yeah.
So, just talking through that with them, like, okay, so the plan is that you're going to age in place in this home. These are the things we know we might have to put in place. But if that doesn't work, what is the plan B? And just talking through having that conversation with them to figure out where they would want to go, who they would want to live close to if there's kids spread across the country. I think having those conversations about your backup plan is super important.
Yeah, that's a great conversation because it's less threatening.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mom and dad or loved one, you got it. We'll age in place. That's the plan. We'll put things in place so that you can age here safely. Let's have a backup plan though, and let's make that plan today together.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah,
it's a good conversation.
Yeah, definitely good things to be aware of and know. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to add as far as?
I'm just looking through my notes here. We talked about family and caregiver perspectives. We talked about the financial considerations, the lifestyle and socialization, safety. We did delineate between what is downsizing versus aging in place. Gosh, I think we've about covered it. I would love to hear from our audience members if you're listening to this or watching this. What questions they have,
Yeah.
Is there, because everybody's situation is different. That's something that we've probably learned along the way, working with helping seniors downsize, is everybody's situation is different. So if you're listening out there, send us some comments, send us some questions, and we'll cover it here. We can cover it here, whether it's us or one of our guests who are when they're on. So send us your questions. Remember to like, share, follow, comment, all the good stuff, because we know that there are so many people out there who need this information. That was the whole point of developing this podcast. So that's it for me.
Yeah, me too. So until next time.
Have a good vacation.
Thank you.